Welcome to another episode of the Metal Roundup, your one-stop shop largely to catch up with the latest happenings in the metal music scene. Now, it's been a while since our last episode. It's been a good few weeks. There's been a lot of busy things going on, but it's worth the wait, folks, because we have a special guest with us today in the one and only Tauri Reacts. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you guys for having me, and we're finally here.
Yes.
Finally.
What the viewers might not know is this is maybe the fourth time we've had to reschedule a very patient and understanding Tauri to join us. So thank you very much for that. We did it. We did it in the end. And we're delighted to have you here to chat about what's been going on in the scene lately. We're going to talk about, I'm sure at some point, the absolute circus show that is the As I Lay Dying situation, which I don't think I know enough about, but hopefully Burb can know bits and pieces because I think he's followed that band for years. So There is that. There's a bunch of great new songs that have come out and albums. We're getting closer to the end of the year. Maybe we'll talk about some potential album of the year contenders as we're putting our kind of list together and some other bits and pieces along the way. But before then, what's been going on in each of your personal worlds in the world of metal? Perhaps Tauri with yourself. Anything interesting you've been experiencing in your life? You go to gigs pretty recently, right? You've been to a couple good ones recently.
We try to. It's just where we are. It's either a 2-hour drive or a 5-hour drive.
Where are you?
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina, and bands rarely come. If they do come, they either go to Charlotte, which is like 3 hours away, Greensboro, which is about 2 hours, or we have to go to Atlanta, Georgia, which is like 5 hours. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass, especially from, where I'm used to growing up in England. I lived like an hour from Manchester, and bands would always go to Manchester. It's the main city, So a lot of tours also tend to miss the South when it gets really hot, because who wants to be touring and sweating their asses off in the humidity? Plus, if it's outside, I do not want to be outside. People say they get their seasonal depression in winter, and I'm like, nope. I hate the summer here. It's too hot.
Wow.
Especially for me, with being from the north of England, and yeah.
Yes. The north of England, like for anyone who doesn't know, it's a hard climate, surprisingly, for just England, but yes, not necessarily the same as North Carolina. So you have to really, really love a band to go and see them live.
Yeah.
So who has passed the threshold for you recently?
Well, our most recent concert was Rain City Drive with Siamese. That was in Greensboro. It was about a 2-hour drive, which we just did that and drove there, drove home. Usually I have to hire a pet sitter because we do have elderly dogs, so we don't like leaving them too long. They're both about 12 now, so yeah. And so then there's that cost as well with going anywhere. Is we have we have pets. We got 2 dogs, we got 3 cats.
Wow.
Good Lord. You have a zoo.
Yeah, we do. But we don't have any kids that live with us. Like my husband's twins, they're both grown and living their own lives. And so they are our babies, so. But yeah, we went to the Rain City Drive concert. It was pretty good because I've had the chance to chat with Matt about the collab they did with Dayseeker, the Medicate Me song that they did.
Cool.
So we did like the VIP stuff, but I know you guys wanted to talk about like everything that's been happening with Alpha Wolf and their security. Well,
Yeah.
There was something that happened at this show that really honestly put me off one of the bands. Because so there was 5 bands altogether. The first 3 were fine. And as they each came on, each band gradually got heavier and heavier. So by the 4th band that came on, I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to like talk bad about them, but they came on stage. They weren't the headliner, but they acted like they were. And
awkward.
Just that attitude, you can feel it. And this venue, it doesn't have a barrier, so it's just literally you stage. And so the lead vocalist was telling people, this is your stage, get up here. So of course people in the audience decided to take that, run with it, and become dicks basically. So they got up on stage, were diving off the stage, and thankfully they were going to the left of us. But then one guy came over and asked us like, if I jump you catch us, and we're all like, nope, not gonna happen. Anyway, so the other guy comes up, doesn't even like say anything, just literally jumps in the crowd. As he jumps in the crowd, he pretty much knocks out somebody behind me. He goes flat, and in front, all around the stage, are speakers, and he hits his head on the speakers and completely knocks out for a couple of seconds. And the guitarist is literally stood. I'm right at the front of the stage. The guitarist is stood in front of me. He just looks down, continues playing, doesn't stop, doesn't say a word. The vocalist comes over and says, "Get him out." And that's it. They didn't stop. They didn't make sure he was okay. And that just really rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, I know it takes time out of your set to stop to make sure somebody's okay, but you're there because these people are there paying you, to watch you. And it just really rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, if Ronnie Radke can stop a concert because somebody's getting hurt, why can't you, for literally a couple of minutes? This poor man and his girlfriend, they probably had to go to hospital because he probably had a concussion. And so they missed the last band. And that's probably the worst experience I've had with that sort of thing happening in like all the times I've been going to shows. So yeah, that's what happened recently. And yeah,
that's disappointing.
Yeah, very.
But you made a good point. If Ronnie can stop the train that is falling in reverse on a huge stage to make sure someone's okay. Green Day did the same thing at Wembley Stadium. Like, if they can do that, I don't know. I get that they want to do the best performance they can, for sure. And maybe they don't realize the person's half concussed. But yeah, that is unfortunate.
Yeah, that's crazy. Drew, were you searching it up?
No, I was just on my left screener. No. Just trying to figure out who the band was that Tauri was talking about.
I'll send you guys a message after just to let you know. But
fair enough.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you not diving in, I suppose.
Yeah, see, the thing is, like, hearing that story is, part of me wants to like know who it is because I'm like, oh, that sounds like a really dick move. But I feel like it's so easy to just allow yourself to make your opinion of that band. Even though I wasn't actually there, you know what I mean? So I'm almost kind of like, I don't really want to know who it is because I know subconsciously if it's a band I like, it will somehow just scar them for me in a weird way. So
yeah.
Maybe I'll just
I totally understand that as well. That's why I don't want to say it, because I don't want to affect anybody's experience of them that they've had that have been positive. For sure, yeah. Whereas, just because mine was negative, maybe they were just having a shitty day and having an off day themselves. You don't know.
Very possible.
So that's why.
It was a good show beside that?
Yeah, it was great. Honestly, I think for Siamese they're quite small over here compared to where they're from, and they were only on for like 30 minutes, but they put on a really amazing show.
I get that vibe from them. I suspect it'd be quite fun live, especially with that "This Is Not a Song" song.
See,
really built for a bit of live show hype.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that before I went to the show, and then they started playing it. I was like, what the f- is this? And then it got into it, and I was like, hell yeah, I've got like a video.
It's a party.
Exactly. And the drummers come down, he grabs my husband's hand, and you can hear my husband going, yeah.
That's cool.
And yeah, they just got really into it and got the crowd amped up for everybody else. So
nice. Speaking of gigs, I've been to a few great ones recently, but one that was really quite amazing was Allt. Got to see Allt live, and they did not disappoint. They were fucking incredible. Obviously, chatted to the lads at the end, and specifically as I was saying my goodbyes, they said, "Oh, Steve, next time, like, bring Drew Fortune. Where is he?" So you've been summoned, Drew.
It's expensive to travel, lads. Come on.
I told them I'll try and get Metal Burb as well, but obviously he has to cross the Atlantic, so it's a little bit harder. But
they got to come to Canada.
It's like the tickets and the flights are actually fine, but then when you add up like for one night,
the beers,
to like the beers, the accommodation, the like everything else that's involved, it just ends up being an expensive night, So yeah.
Saying Allt are not worth it. That's all that was.
That's what I'm saying. Sorry, lads. Next time they're headlining, I'll make the trip over, lads. All right.
Okay. Well, that is March 2025. They're headlining the Underworld, and you got to come.
Fuck, that's so soon. Okay, you're right. I've been called out. I'll be there. All right.
Teased him into it.
Clip it and ship it.
Yeah. And other people that like you, Drew, I got to interview Polaris recently, and they remembered. I mentioned yourself, and they remembered meeting you in Dublin.
Yeah.
They said you were an asshole. They really hated.
What's new?
I'm kidding. New? They actually said he was very sweet, which is a lovely review.
Yeah. No, I watched the interview. It was it reminded me of how nice the lads were. Like, it was genuine. Sometimes you can tell. I've not really had the experience in the music scene, but you know when you meet someone and you're kind of like, they could easily be a dickhead outside of this interaction, but I just didn't get that impression at all with them, you know, just real down to earth guys. People that genuinely seem like they are interested in the community. You know what I mean? Like people who are actually like, oh shit, we actually watch your videos. Now, I'm not saying that they're sitting there watching all of my specific videos, but they're aware of the content that we're creating around the bands, which is really nice because, you know, you get the odd like message or anything like that, but meeting someone in person always feels a little bit more surreal because it's this weird mutual respect thing, because obviously we love them for the music and we're so, you know, in awe of some of the things they've done. And then I won't go as far as saying they're in awe of us, but you know, they're familiar with us in similar ways that we're familiar with them, you know, so it's a cool mutual experience. But to me, it never feels that way because I'm going in like looking at them, I'm like, oh shit, but then they may have watched a lot of the videos that we've covered and maybe even other videos as well, so they can
Dan
get
said
to know.
exactly this before the start of the official recording. I can send you the clip. He was saying like, it's mad that, you know, we'd be meeting them being like, we watched their stuff for years. I'm like, but we've been watching your stuff for years. So like, it's a really cool mutual moment. Yeah. It's nice.
But I think I don't think it's too much to ask, but you'd be surprised. I think in any industry that like anyone's doing pretty well, it takes a level of groundedness to actually just even say that. A lot of people could like, you know, dance around the fact that they've seen a lot of your content, but they're just open about it and saying, you know, we watch your videos, you know, we're as big as a fan of, you know, you as you are of us. So it's nice when people just say we watch the videos, even if they don't leave a comment on like, as in we love it. It's just, we are, you know, we're aware of what you do, you know, that's always really nice. So
yeah. It turns out you absolutely never know who's watching, because at the House of Protection gig, Jordan Fish walked up to me to come and say hello to me. It wasn't the other way around.
Wow, that's cool.
Like time slowed down, and I was like, "There's no way." You know what's happened here? He's waved at the person behind me, and I'm there going, "No, it's not me." And then he came and shook my hand, and we talked for like 10 minutes. He's like, "Yeah, I really enjoy the channel, your content." He's like, "I love reaction channels." I'm like, "What the fuck is happening right now?"
That's insane. And
I was like, "Yeah, I've been following your career for years." And he's like, "Oh, I know." Like, I've seen. I'm like, okay, shit.
Yeah, it's super weird when they don't engage too online, so you never know. And then when they actually drop things like that, it's always shocking.
Yeah, I had that with sorry, excuse me, with Eddie from Imminence when I went to do like a in-person interview with them, and he just walks out. He's like, "It's finally nice to meet you in person. I watch all your videos." I was like, "What? You do?" He's like, yeah, and I was like, well, that's surreal.
I love the guys at Eminence. That's actually one of the bands where, like, you know, I've gave them pretty tough criticism and mentioned some things. And then, so when I saw them, they invited me out to a concert. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm surprised they invited me out. I guess they still want to chat with me, even though I've been a little bit tough. And then when I talked to them, they actually brought up some of the criticisms that I had and put me on the spot. And like, but we joked about it. And I thought that was just actually really cool that we were able to just like connect. And now like Eddie is awesome, and they actually like joke around with me too. Like, I love that band.
Yeah,
that's great.
I think it's important. That's another way that they stay grounded, is that they can take that constructive criticism to, you know, to their music and maybe switch up some things, because you're the listener. You know, it's important for you to enjoy what they're putting out, and because if it wasn't for you, then they're not going to be doing this thing and getting bigger and more popular. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, well said. It makes me respect the band a lot more too.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's because general human nature struggles, I think, at times to take criticism, especially if it's an art form. It's a creative, like little baby of yours. It's hard, but I'm always impressed when those can. And thus far, I've met a lot of band members who just appreciate, especially if they're putting out art out into the world. They want to know what someone thinks about it, and they really want to know what the true thought is, not just be told like, "That's great, you keep going." Like, I don't want that either. It's just opinions, isn't it?
Yeah. You mentioned your live show experience, Steve. You've been to a lot over the last while. The most recent one, I guess, is probably a good talking point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or have you got other ones? There's been way more before that as well, right?
There's been a lot. I went to Beartooth with Polaris and Landmarks, which was great. The House of Protection one was amazing. That was their second ever gig that they played in London, which is like a financially insane thing to do. It's a 500 cap venue in London. They flew from the States to go and play. Like, and judging from the photo that Steve, the guitarist, posted on Instagram, it wasn't regular class either. Like, what are they? They're just they're sort of statement pieces. I don't know. They're like, well, we just love London. We get a good reception here. We just wanted to come here. So I don't know, but it was wild.
So cool, man.
Great. It was a phenomenal gig. Really, really cool. But yeah, a couple of nights ago, I was in Paris for Linkin Park with Sleep Token, and I was going there for Sleep Token. It's like, that's such a kind of unmissable gig. Linkin Park and Sleep Token in the same bill. I've got to see that thing. And I wasn't really in on Emily Armstrong. And there were definitely moments, about 20% of the time, 10 to 20% of the time during that set, I was like, this isn't really working. But 80% of the time, I thought it was really good. Much better than I expected. And some moments were fucking phenomenal. And I don't know yet how or why some moments she really absolutely suits and others she doesn't, in my opinion. But it was actually a really cool experience to have seen them live. And see Sleep Token as an opening act in this era was fucking crazy. They just came on and slayed and then just casually walked off the stage. I did, however, like I got back to the hotel at midnight and then I recorded my review because I wanted to edit it on the Eurostar home to get it out as quickly as possible. But since it was such a late night and such an early morning, I slept through my alarm and I didn't make my train. In fact, I woke up 2 minutes after the train had left. Like it was just gone. So I have to find another.
Have a good night, Steve.
Yeah. I was sober. It wasn't even like I was too drunk from the gig. I just completely missed it.
How was the crowd at the show? Was it like a good majority was like Linkin Park or?
Yes, I'd say strong majority Linkin Park, but also a surprising amount was Sleep Token in all areas as well. Like in the floor area, and sure at the front there would be a mad amount of people for Sleep Token, but everywhere, yeah. But Linkin Park is the bigger band. Like Sleep Token, I don't think at the stage that they're at could fill the 45,000 person venue. This is a massive fucking arena in Paris, way bigger than Wembley Arena is in the UK. And it's only a band like Linkin Park could really do that at that, because they'd only had like 3 weeks or 4 weeks between selling the tickets and the gig. Like only someone like Linkin Park could do that. And they've not played Paris in a long time, so people flooded in to go and see that show. But the crowd went nuts for it, like jumping up and down all over the shop for the bigger songs. It was a very celebratory, large occasion, and Verb has heard enough.
The most insane thing to me that I keep thinking about, and I watched your video on the Linkin Park concert as well, like as you were speaking about it, and obviously the criticisms that you had of Emily Armstrong from before, and you know how well she did or didn't do in certain moments, all I could think of was this woman has gone from being relatively unknown to like now playing in a stadium in France on the other side of the world to where she's from to 45,000 people. I'm like, that's just like, wait, how many people? Sorry, Steve, how many people?
45,000 people apparently. Between 40 and 45 is probably more correct. God. But like, you're right. Any normal human being, their head would implode. With like they would have a complete separation of mind and body if they're suddenly ejected into the world of in that kind of arena to sing songs that they've been fans of for a couple of decades. Like that, it is no small task. So of course she's gonna like lose herself a bit and forget some lyrics and you know, but there were so many moments that she absolutely crushed. Like the big scream in Giving Up just nailed it. Like it was really, really very impressive.
Would you go and see them again, and just Linkin Park with a band that you wouldn't be as interested in seeing, like Sleep Token again? I
think it would be worth it. I think I only wouldn't because financially I just don't have the funds to like be seeing them again. I'd rather have that money to see other bands I want to see, that because I'm lucky enough being in London, I have a buffet choice of all the bands I want to see. I just physically can't go to them all because of money, or like sometimes they're on the same night. Like the night I saw Beartooth with Polaris and Landmarks, there was another gig where it was Unprocessed and Oralize, and I couldn't see both. So I went to Bristol instead to see those other bands. So it's a first world problem to have, I suppose. My wallet does not thank me.
Send some of them over to Ireland. We'll take them happily.
There you go. Or just move to London, Drew. I keep telling you.
London,
we would have such crack.
I know. It's just Dublin as well. It's just the same place, isn't it? It's just
right.
So
it's the same place, but more bands. What are you doing?
Yeah, like all the places that have good bands are just so fucking expensive. It's like, you know, Canada is pretty much the same thing.
Toronto's ridiculously expensive. Yeah, and we have a lot of shows.
Yeah, like it's just
And North Carolina, how are we doing for house prices over there? Is it?
Honestly, it's pretty decent here where I am.
Nice.
But I also live in a military town where people are coming and going all the time, so it kind of has to be. So.
Right.
Which
Cool.
is, it sucks as well because you meet people and then within 6 months or to a year, they're like moving away to a different state or country, and it's hard. So.
Do you have many friends in your community that are metalheads, or is that somewhat what's inspired your channel? What was the root of you starting the channel you have, focusing on the heavier rock?
Well, so there's only a year between my brother and I, and we've got very similar tastes. And then my sister's like 4 years younger, and then she's on the other side with like the more symphonic stuff. So I'm kind of like slotted in the middle of them both. And I started my channel like literally November 2019, I think it was. So just before COVID. And I started it because music has always been a big thing for me. I don't know if you guys know what aphantasia is. It's where you don't have a mind's eye, so you don't see images in your brain. It's just dark in there. So yeah, when you imagine something, so if I say to you, think of an apple, like a red apple, and then there's like various stages of how your imagination sees that. I don't see it. I know what an apple looks like, but I don't see an image in there.
You don't make your own version of that in that moment.
No.
Wow.
That's wild. I never knew something like that existed too.
Yeah, it's like when people, they don't have that inner monologue, so they don't talk to them, like their voice, they don't hear their voice in their head either.
Right.
Whereas
so what is your experience of that thing of like, if picture an apple, can you think of the most recent apple you've seen? Or you just don't have an image in your head? You go, I know what an apple is, move on.
Right, I know what it looks like, but I can't describe it to you. I can't say it's like whatever color it is, if it's bitten or if it's half, or if it's... So like when I go to bed and I close my eyes, it's just dark and it's just my mind's, my voice just going, just talking to myself. So that's why music for me, it covers up that darkness for me. And so ever since I was very little, my mom said the only thing that would keep me quiet for hours on end was Disney's Fantasia, just because it had the images along with that like classical music. And then
it's awesome.
As it's a brilliant film. Of course, the big, the Doom Mountain Devil scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Of course, still does.
Yeah. So as I grew and as my taste developed, and I didn't really get into metal, like rock and metal, till I was maybe 17 or 18. I was more like, because living in England, we have that very dance, trancey upbringing as well, so I love that still to this day. I listen to anything and everything, but metal and rock is just something that, because there's so many different genres within it that cater to so many people, that you can find something for you. And that's what I love about it. And so I started my channel just because maybe about a year before I started, I saw reaction channels. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, why are people filming themselves, watching
We've all had like the same
and
this is stupid. Who would ever do this? Hey guys, welcome back to my channel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and one of my favorite bands is Nightwish, and one of the big ones that does get you many views, of course, is Ghost Score.
Yeah.
I have lyrics on my back from that song.
Wow.
Yeah, I've loved it since I was, 2004, I think that album came out. So I've been a big fan of theirs since about then. So I saw people reacting to that and it took me and then of course Ginger came out with Pisces. That's why you won't ever find Pisces on my channel, just because I watched so many before I had the guts and bravery to sit here in front of a camera. And I just thought one day, I was like, well, you love music. You love discovering new music. Sometimes we put ourselves in this little box and you want to get yourself out of that box, and you just, you're just listening to the same thing over and over. And it's hard to make yourself go out and listen to new things. So I was like, well, these people are getting all these recommendations. They're doing all this new stuff. There's people out there who haven't even heard Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, that's crazy to me. Yet you find them, reacting to it, or they say they are for the first time. so that's what kickstarted me. It wasn't really a particular channel. It was just I've had this passion and love for music all of my life. And like when I'm at home, I always have a headset on. I'm always listening to something. My Spotify playlists are super long just because, and like just different things. I also love like movie score instrumental tracks that I listen to when I do edit, just because there's no voices to distract me, like with lyric wise, and just all kinds of music. It's just I did try, and so I played. My grandma was a piano teacher growing up. She did try and teach us, but I think she was kind of the wrong person because she didn't have the patience because we were her grandkids. So just didn't really go well. And then in primary school, I played a little bit of trumpet for band. But I'm one of those people where I really delve into something and then I do it too much and then I hit that brick wall and I'm just like, I'm done. And then I give up.
Right. So like Drew with metalcore. Yeah, we understand. Go on.
So with my channel, like I when I started it, I only released like 3 videos a week because I didn't want to keep, hit that brick wall because music is so important. So that's how it started.
Wow. And what I've enjoyed from your reactions in particular is you seem very good at connecting to the emotional expressions of things within songs, which I think there's something unique about the metal world, that additional lever of a scream vocal that the pop world just doesn't have, for example, or jazz, whatever it is, to express a certain kind of emotion at full volume. There's something really fucking cool about that, I think.
Yeah, and I've kind of tainted my husband with that now too, because he wasn't really into heavier stuff. Now he listens to something and he's like, oh, they could have added this or they could have done that. And
that's how it goes.
Like, yay!
Yeah.
I'm still so caught up on what you said about, I know you used the description, like when you were talking about the apple and you can't like visualize that. I'm so curious how that, I guess we, like myself, Steve and Burb, won't be able to actually visualize what that would be like because we obviously, can't. But I'm so curious with music, like you can hear the lyrics, you can read the lyrics, and obviously lyrics can be very descriptive and bring out a lot of emotion. Do you find it hard to, I know Steve mentioned the emotion side of things and you're very good at like connecting with the lyrics, because when I think of how I listen to music, I can like relate to the emotional side if they're like painting a picture, you know what I mean, like through their lyrics. So how does that work for you? Like, is that something that like hinders your ability to enjoy some music if it's very like descriptive?
I don't think so. I think because I am very empathetic and I do tend to wear my heart on my sleeve anyway. Yeah. I always have done. So with music, I think because it's I treat it more as monologue rather than trying to picture an image, and with the like reading a book, if you will. But then again, that's also like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking when I read a book, I see it in my mind's eye.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's why, like, I love reading and I love reading books, but I have a hard time until somebody releases a film of it, and then I can see that actor with whatever I'm reading. Whereas, I don't know. It's a good question. I've never really thought about it because I've just lived with this my whole life. I honestly really didn't know about it much till maybe a few years ago. My sister and I were talking about it because she's very, very, very creative. She's a digital artist. She went to school for game design. So she's very creative in that aspect. And so her mind is just constantly flooded with images and ideas and things like that. Whereas mine is just, there's nothing there other than my own voice. And so she looked it up and she found out what it was. And ever since then, I've just been trying to learn more about it, because when I go to bed and then when I wake up in the morning, I'm sure I dream, I just don't recall any of it because I don't see any of it.
That is wild.
Yeah, never heard that before. It's crazy.
Absolutely wild. You know what else is wild? The As I Lay Dying situation. Look at that for a segue.
Nice segue.
Very good.
So
we've gone 30 minutes here without talking about it. So perhaps, Burb, could you maybe round up what the hell is going on in that camp?
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard to avoid if you're in the metal scene, right? But it's kind of funny how we were literally just talking about As I Lay Dying on the last podcast, because we were talking about, like, separating the art from the artists. But let and behold, all of his new members are leaving the band because of moral differences. And, As Lay Dying has always been a band that's always had, finicky morals. I think, like, to sum it up, for people that really don't know what's going on with the band, As Lay Dying, Tim the vocalist did a horrible act by trying to hire a hitman to put a hit on his wife. Went to jail.
Pretty bad.
Also, I mentioned on the last podcast, I got some of the things wrong. He was talking to someone at the gym that was like a friend, but that friend eventually went to undercover cop. That's how it happened. So then he went to prison for 3 years, and he came back, and he did some reconciliation with his band, and they put out like a YouTube video of them like hashing it out and crying and all this stuff. And then they put out their new stuff, and honestly, it's pretty good. The As Lay Dying knows how to write bangers. But since then, the guitarist and other members left, like the bassist Josh Gilbert left, and now he's in Spirit Box. So then Tim hired a whole bunch of new musicians, and a lot of them are from the OG metalcore. Unearth, if you know that band, he recruited musicians from Unearth. Miss May I too. And now they wrote a new album, and I've been reacting to some of the songs. They've been pretty good. And then, let him behold, all the band members are now leaving again. So now Tim, he finally made a statement basically saying, like, it's still not the end. He's going to continue. This band is all about...
Well, it's his identity, right? Like,
yeah, but like for me, I made a video about it because, like, dude, just stop. Just stop.
Really?
Like, I'm so over it. Like, this band is so like As Lay Dying, As Lay Dead kind of thing. I'm over it.
Was it the last person that left, or maybe it was a meme that happened after? It was a meme of the band promo, but it's all Tim's face, and everyone says "As Tim lays dying."
Yeah. So, what do you guys think about all this news? I know you don't listen to the music that much, so you probably don't have too much skin in the game. But
I did read up on it before coming into this, and it's just like you say. There's a line where you just you have to put that line in the sand. You have to say enough is enough, and either start something completely brand new or just leave it and move on. Because there's only so much people can take from somebody like that, and I know you separate the art from the artist, but sometimes that's hard to do depending on what they've done. A good one for that, of course, is growing up in England, the huge band that I loved.
Oh no, don't say it. Don't say it.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, you can't say it. Like, Lost Prophets.
No,
the first
Voldemort's
band member I ever met was not Ian Watkins. It was the drummer from the Lost Prophets. So, like, there's a whole amazing thing in my life. It's like, well, I can't share that story so much anymore. But
yeah, I remember going to see them, and I must have been in my younger teens, and we tried to go early, just when people sit outside and try and get that off chance where they're going into the venue. But thankfully, the girls I were with were they made us late, so that's a good thing, because I could not imagine how that could have gone if they'd invited us anywhere. But it's really hard because they did put out some really great music, and then now it's tainted by what he did. And
yep.
So
we've chatted about this on this podcast. It's like everyone has their own kind of line, because everyone has different morals and the rest, but there's some general ones I think the vast majority can kind of agree on, like, that is a little bit too much, man. That's tough. But in terms of like the As I Lay Dying thing, what I'm interested in here is, if like he's a human being, he's got one life on planet Earth, if that theory is correct, and so he's part of his identity is being in bands and making music, so he's going to want to do that forever. Is the thing that he could stop the As I Lay Dying chapter and then leave the fans to continue to enjoy that and start a new thing, but essentially it'd be the same thing, wouldn't it? Just under a different name? Like, what would be the benefit of him stopping that band? Or do people just want him to not be on stage anymore at all? What's the ask?
Yeah, I know. Well, he already has another side band too called Austrian Death Machine, and it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger meme metal. It's kind of goofy, yeah. But he's like really.
The red flags were there all along. We should have known.
The dude is also, initially when he tried to, when he went to jail, he was on roids too. So definitely was having some roid rage. Like it's actually when he was in prison, he said he needed roids because he was getting withdrawal symptoms. So the dude's just been like falling apart. But like, because of it, like he is into fitness. Like, dude, just like go in the fitness world or whatever.
Like, roids, sure.
I think you screwed up your reputation like so bad. And it's funny when, not funny, but like when you talked about drawing the line, like enough is enough kind of thing. I think a lot of people will argue that like you should have drawn the line at, when he went to prison. That should have been like the end of As I Lay Dying. So then the fact that people and the fans were giving him a second chance, and the reason is he really did this apologetic thing, like that's his whole thing, like really coming to terms with it, and not asking for forgiveness because he knows what he did is unforgivable kind of thing. So maybe that's why me and others included like, okay, I'm still going to listen to the music. The music's still good, but like, this guy's awfully like you wouldn't trust that guy, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, now this is just like point like blank, like yeah, of course no one can trust him in the scene.
But do we know what's actually like, what is the thing that has stretched everyone's morals to breaking point, as they put it? Like, or is there something that just hasn't come out yet? Like, this is so weird. That what has happened? Or is he just being a bit of a disgruntled band member? And they're like, you know what? I don't even want to be in this band,
Yeah. I think it's a lot of the frustration is that like no one actually, I've been watching from the outside. I haven't heard any of As I Lay Dying's music at all, that I know of anyway. But I've seen all the videos, so I was just like, okay, here's some drama. Let's check it out. And from what I can see, is that like from the statement that he released, it looks like he's going full steam ahead on the As I Lay Dying thing. From his statement, it looks like he's just like, okay, look, we've lost more members, but like, here's some really vague information about what happened there. His was like, we have some differences financially and like creatively, but the other members were like, our morals have been tested so far. So it's like obviously this massive discrepancy between what they're saying. So, well, I mean, from what I gathered, he's just planning to go ahead with it. So I'm kind of like, because I know obviously on the internet, things always seem like the world is falling apart in terms of like, I'm not suggesting that this is wrong or right for his situation, but it does always seem like everything on the internet is like, this is the end. But I feel like if they were to just go and do a show, there's probably a lot of people that would still just go and see it. You know what I mean? I feel like the internet can be very different to real life. Again, I'm not condoning whatever is going on. I don't care if people go to it or not, but I just feel like it's being made out that like no one's going to see them anymore. They're done. If he gets some members in to fill a presence on stage.
He made the point kind of hilariously by being like, listen, I'll get new people to come join the band. I've already been through 20, basically. It's like, well, isn't that a bit of a shocker? Yeah. It's like, but thank you very much to all them for everything they've contributed. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the thing is, Phil, the guitarist, is the recent one to leave, but he was also one of the long-term remaining members from like 2006 or something. Don't quote me on that. But he's the one that eventually put the final statement before Tim's, and he basically said, no longer, the band doesn't offer a healthy or safe environment for anyone involved, whether creatively, personally, or professionally, witnessing some concerning patterns of behavior. So in a way, just like, I understand that the internet can be different too, but like there's just when there's so many patterns of poor behavior, just like in a way, like why is this guy getting any more spotlight than he kind of deserves, kind of thing. We should be highlighting other bands who are crushing it. And that's what I did with my video, because I did a video. I'm like, to the As I Lay Dying fans, the OG metalcore fans, like listen to some new modern metalcore that's kicking ass and they don't have this bad history. Like one of them is like Boundaries has some As I Lay Dying kind of riffs here and there. But yeah, I understand where Drew's coming from, because the internet could be blowing everything out of crazy proportion that sometimes it's not like that in the real world. But I think there's so many musicians involved with As I Lay Dying too, like Josh was the bassist and clean singer, and he's now in Spirit Box. So Spirit Box is like kind of like involved too in a weird way. Like, it's just like it's everywhere in the scene in a way, just like, just be done with it, dude. Just move on, be in the fitness world, try going there or something.
I've not noticed, but have people come out being like, no, I've got his back. He's actually great. People are telling the wrong things about him. Like, I've not really heard those voices. Doesn't mean that they don't exist, but I just not noticed them.
So yeah, good question, because after he did his time in prison, he made friends with Garrett Russell. He also did a song recently. One of the new As I Lay Dying songs has Tom Barber and Alex Terrible on it. And so he definitely has some friends, and like I've heard a lot of like good things about him. And you know, he's like he's a good dude, but like, you know, seeing this fall apart so quickly, just kind of like, how, as a fan, how are you supposed to gauge that kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's hard to, because you're only seeing from the outside and you'll never know the full story. So it's like, where do I, you know, what do I do with this? Where do I go with it? Am I now done as a fan of any further music they do intend to make, or am I going to continue and support them? Like, that's basically down to the fan base, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be fair for any fan to go, well, all I have is anecdotal stories, and that's not enough to completely judge someone on. If I'm a fan of the music, I'll continue to be a fan until a point in which there's evidence that is irrefutable. Like, okay, you know, actually, like that's fair enough, and I'm out. But until then, like the problem would be, because of the age of the internet we're at in cancel culture, is that the consensus appears to be he must be some awful piece of shit. So if you go to a gig or a festival wearing an As I Lay Dying t-shirt, someone else will be like, oh, you must be a piece of shit, because that's the general society consensus now. Whether that is actually fact-based or not, we don't know, because we don't really know what the hell's gone on recently. That's the awkward stage that people will maybe be in.
Yeah, and he's done a lot of podcasts too, showing some human side to him. So they're like, I don't know. I don't even like knowing the drama. I don't want to know what's happening with the band, but just the fact that so much shit constantly goes on with the band, it's kind of annoying as a fan. But like with the last nail in the coffin for me, well, not really nail in the coffin, but As I Lay Dying peaked at like 2003, 2004 anyway. So when they're dropping new music, it's cool. But like another reason why I like, just like be done with the band. Like, you guys already peaked in the early 2000s. Your music was insane during that era. The new stuff's good, but it peaked already. You guys should actually check out some old As I Lay Dying. They are awesome.
I know
I've
heard of bits and pieces over the years. I'm sure I have, because it's a name I'm familiar with, but it's clearly never grabbed me in particular. I don't know why, but
good gym music.
Yeah.
Awesome
well, I'm
riffs.
Clearly unhealthy, and so I'm not a gym guy. No use for that music. Look at these
Fair
cheeks.
enough.
Come on.
I know. Same here.
Speaking of gym music,
cheeks.
you guys heard the. Speaking of cheeks, no, the new Fit for an Autopsy album, gym music. Decent segue. Give me some credit for that one.
Yeah, I respect the game. I've not heard it though, but I don't mind chatting about it.
Tori, you heard it?
Yeah,
Not yet.
Right. Okay.
Well, what do you think, Drew?
Ooh,
Well, what do you think, Burp?
Burp is really cagey.
I felt like I was talking too much. So I'm trying to put it back on you. But okay.
No. Well, okay. Before we go into that, I'm curious, Tori, are you into anything specifically in deathcore or anything like very, very heavy? Because I know you mentioned Night. Is it Nightwish?
Yeah.
Nightwish, yeah. They're your favorite band? Because I know they're like not very much so in the deathcore field at all.
No, but I mean, I do enjoy like I mean, I listen to everything. I've only recently started getting into like the super, super heavy stuff, like let's say like Lorna Shore or even Slaughter to Prevail. But I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, because we listen and we react to so much music. It's hard to pinpoint something that's in that specific genre, because I don't really tend to focus on what genre it is. If I like something, then I like something.
Yeah. That's such a good way to be. I was so like that when I first got into this like YouTube and metal thing, that now it's like you can hyper analyze genres too much instead of just being like, do I like this song or do I not like this song? It's like, well, this is this genre, so it has to sound like this. You start to create these like preconceptions of what something should sound like, I guess. Which I'm the worst in the world for doing, but that's such a more wholesome place to be with music. Is just like, don't care what this is, don't care what genre it is, let's just listen and see if it's good,
Yeah, well, and I think especially in today's day where bands are now experimenting so much with so many different things, even outside of rock and metal, it's hard to say, to be in one specific thing and say it should sound like this or it should sound like that. If you enjoy it, you like it, fantastic. If you don't, then you don't. That's one thing I don't understand about people leaving rude comments or just comments on bands' pages or something, and just if you don't like it, move on from it. It's not that difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a wholesome place to be.
As Vessel from Sleep Token says, life is beautiful. Don't get lost in genres. They'll only disorientate you. Music is for everyone.
Yep. It's funny because like in my community, people were kind of calling me like, the prog guy and stuff. Like, oh, they love prog because of me. And like, I never really thought I was a prog guy. Like until I started doing my YouTube channel, I just like music that's like a little bit unconventional sometimes. And if it can go long and the song's still good, like why should there be a time limit to that? And so like now I'm like kind of like known as like maybe the prog guy a little bit, which to me like, okay, sure, I'll take it.
I get that because I think people tend to follow me because I'm more so on like the symphonic metal side of things, because that's what I really do love. I mean, one of my other favorite bands is Epica, and they have super long songs as well. Like you say, I don't think there should be a limit on, like it shouldn't be radio friendly. It shouldn't be like mainstream out there,
Talk to Bill Murray about song lengths. It's like 2 minutes, sure, done.
Yeah, he writes bangers though.
Yeah,
non-stop bangers.
But both can exist. But you're to your points, both of you, I think, is like the counter on the clock is irrelevant for whether a song moves or is valid. Like whether it's 2 minutes or 10 minutes, as long as it's serving the purpose while it's playing, then it can be great and valid.
For sure.
And Drew, you were asking me about Fit for Autopsy. Well, I actually thought the album was pretty good. It didn't really wow me as much as like the previous two albums. I feel like it's just more of like an extension to what they're doing. Except for Red Horizon, I thought that song had a powerful message and video, and that was a huge highlight. Last track on the album was good too, but yeah, like I think Fit for Autopsy is a band that just has such a solid reputation in the scene. Having Will Putney. Will Putney is like a producer that works with everyone, and he's also the guitarist. So for people to say like negative things about Fit for Autopsy, it's like, no, you're wrong, because everything that they do is good. But yeah, so with this album, I thought it was good. Like it's still really good because it's them, but it didn't like blow my mind or anything. But I don't know how you feel though, Drew.
Yeah, which is like it's again, Fit for an Autopsy, mate. They're one of my favorite, if not the favorite. Again, I'm kind of similar to what Tauri was saying. It's like I don't have a lot of deathcore bands that I'm really into. Like there's a few bands I could probably name like I don't even know if I could put 5 off the top of my head that I'm really into. But they were just one of those bands that I think their call-outs, like their moments before breakdowns, are just some of the best in the world. They're just so goddamn good. I think just Joe Bad has a way of just putting it, even the most simple words together and just making it so perfect before some groovy breakdown. So the groove is always exceptional. They don't like stray too far into the like blast beat wall of sound territory that I don't really like deathcore for. But with this album, it's always hard to follow up again after such strong back-to-back albums with the last album, Oh What the Future Holds, and See a Tragic Beast. Like those two albums were my first deathcore albums that I like properly fell in love with. I was obsessed with those. So I was obviously going in with those exceptions like we just mentioned, trying not to do that, but it's just impossible sometimes to not have an idea of what you would hope the album would sound like going into it. But it seemed like they maybe strayed slightly away from that older sound, but at the same time kept it quite nostalgic. But I guess it didn't sound too far from the other two albums to make it that memorable. There's some great songs, like you mentioned. The Red Horizon one was memorable, obviously, for the lyrical content in the video. But I just didn't think there was as many memorable moments, like just for like even a few seconds, as there was with Oh What the Future Holds and See a Tragic Beast. But yeah, great band.
Yeah, Steve and Tori, are you guys familiar with them?
I've
heard. I think I've maybe done 1 or 2 reactions to them on my channel.
Yeah, they're a cool
one.
They're a cool band, and like we were just talking about genres, but I feel like that's a band that kind of transcends genres a little bit. Like even calling them deathcore doesn't seem to be doing it justice, because they kind of got metalcore and prog in them too. They're a cool band in that way.
I've done 2 reactions to them. One before I had a rating system, and the other one, so I don't know what I'd rate it. The other one I rated halfway decent.
Which song was that? Do you know? If you
don't
say
want to
higher
tell
level
you.
of hate, you're
'Cause-
cancelled right now. Cancelled.
It was called Lower Purpose.
Oh, that's off of the new album.
Yeah, that was good, but like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
But
I enjoy that
you know,
one.
I don't know when I did that one. It's very possible I went like, for me and my taste, it's halfway decent because I am not like deathcore guy. I'm becoming into it a bit more because of bands like Make Them Suffer that will give me a nice bangery, catchy chorus that then I can accept the deathcore around it, and then now I'm getting more used to and now enjoying some deathcore moments.
Yeah. No, they like I'd gotten into Gojira quite early with like my channel and stuff. So I was exposed to like the bigger bands in the scene, and obviously Gojira have quite a unique sound. So when I started to get into the more niche stuff with like metalcore, deathcore kind of came to my doorstep with Fit for an Autopsy, and I could hear like they're massively inspired by Gojira. Like there's a lot of like pick scraping. They've got a lot of fun moments, big arena choruses in certain moments. So when I started to pick up on that Gojira sound, but also this like fresh, modern, like real groovy, bouncy deathcore rhythm that they had going on as well, I was like, oh, this is really, really cool because it's combining that like Gojira style with something that I haven't really heard before that's so brutal. So I've always had like a special place for Fit for an Autopsy. So I guess I took that into the new album, and it was a good album, and I think it will grow on me over time. But yeah, solid.
Yeah, they're definitely Gojira core, and they kick ass for that. But there's one album that we still haven't talked about because it's been a minute since we've done a podcast, and we all have our album reactions out, I'm pretty sure. But Allt from the New World. Yeah. We still haven't actually talked about this because it came out almost like a month ago, but we haven't actually.
We talked about Echoes because we had just done that one.
Yeah,
single.
I forgot we didn't talk about the album. Yeah.
I would love to hear your counterpoints first because I know that you guys, I know your opinions, but
Tauri, have you heard this album? Do you know Allt at all?
I know of them. I've only ever done one song so far. They blew me away, honestly, with that song.
Which song do you remember?
I can look it up while you guys talk.
Aquila, I think it was Echoes. I remember seeing the thumbnail.
I think it was Echoes. I haven't done Aquila yet. I've had a lot of requests for that one.
Yeah, Aquila's great. And the Orphan Breed, that's pretty full on, but yeah.
I know that they were, you said you saw them recently. That was with Imminence and Aviana, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Well,
they were my highlight. For sure.
I have the possible hot take here, but I don't know if you guys saw my review. But after checking out the album, there's so much hype. Orphan Breed was almost like a song of the year last year, and like Aquila is like still one of the best songs I've heard this year. So going into this record, so excited for it. And then left like, yeah, this is really solid. Didn't really blow my mind as much as I was kind of hoping it to, except for like the one track Ephemeral, or however you say it. Like that track had some awesome riffs, but I did feel like most of the record, like I'm just hearing like insane potential with what they're doing here. And I think that it's not fully unlocked. It's just like a good sample of what's to come. So I really liked it. And like I also said, it reminds me so much of what Northlane did back in 2011 with Discoveries, where they kind of shook up the scene a little bit. The old Northlane vocalist is still regarded as one of the best metalcore vocalists that ever exist in the scene. And then now with Robin, I feel like he's going to be in conversation as being like one of the best vocalists in metalcore too.
Yes.
And instead of Gent, which was Northlane was doing, this is Fall. But like I just feel like this is like such a sick record, but I was actually like, maybe the hype was too high, or maybe I've just heard the singles so many times. But I also needed a little bit more diversity with the sound. A little bit is what I was kind of hoping for. So I gave it like an 8.2. Still like really solid though.
I think those are valid points. I think what they've managed to do is take influence from a lot of things that have been happening in the Bustercore world and sort of Hadouken it into this amazing little pocket. And if you love that pocket of sound, you're going to love that entire album, which I did. Everything they did just tickled me throughout the whole thing. Yes, so satisfying. But I could also see how if that pocket of sound isn't enough, then you'd want a bit more variety between the songs and exploration, other soundscapes and things. Because the songs each had the same dynamic of like wall of sound at some point and some low moments and some in-string grooves and some surprises in there and some melodic vocals. Like it had a lot of the similar touch points, and either you love that enough that whole album becomes this loopable pocket of disgustingly delicious sound, which is what I'd see it as. Or you go, this is good. I like it. What more can you do? Which is, they've got more records ahead of them, and perhaps we'll discover some of that. But it was a lightning bolt moment, perhaps, in the scene, as you said.
Well said. Yeah, that was a good way to explain it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with pretty much both of what you guys said. I think we were spoiled, which seems to be the case a lot. Maybe we can touch on this maybe separately as a different point, but it seems to be the case a lot recently where obviously there's been a bit of a shift. I don't know when it started. I can't pinpoint exactly which albums maybe started it. I think the most recent or the earliest example I can think of, I guess that's the most high profile example of it, is Take Me Back to Eden with Sleep Token, where we had such a large portion of the album already released with like huge singles. I know it's been going on for beyond that, but I just remember Sleep Token with the amount of hype. Like the Sleep Token release days with the singles was like an album drop every single time. Like it was that same kind of hype. It was like almost a new album dropping every time they put out a single. So it just feels like there's a bit of a blueprint set there. And to go back to Allt, I was so blown away by the majority of the singles. And that was my key takeaway with the album, was that I think the singles were all fantastic. The singles that I loved when I first heard them, the Orphan Breed, Aquila, they all stayed the exact same. Like they were as fun to listen to on the album as they were when I heard them for the first time. Then we had the other singles that I didn't really love, like Echoes. I remember we were all kind of like, well, I know me and Burr were kind of much the same opinion. I know, Steve, you loved it, yeah. And I actually came around to that one a lot more. So across the entire album, which was only 34 minutes looking at it here, the singles were definitely the standout. So I would agree with what Burb is kind of like, you know, implying with the singles being like the strongest parts. Now, again, obviously there is some great moments from the non-singles, but it does feel a little bit like sometimes maybe bands are a little bit too heavy with the singles in terms of like how much power they're putting out with the big singles. And then when the album comes out, a little bit like the North Lane EP as well, when they dropped the EP, it was kind of like strongest ones seemingly were on the EP.
I wonder if this is in our heads, because I don't think any band's putting out just the only, you know, we think these 4 songs are brilliant and the rest are like whatever's. I think they think each of them are brilliant in their own way, and it's probably hard for them or the labels wrote is to pick the singles. I don't think this is a new phenomenon, because back in the day you might get 2 singles off a band and then you buy the album and you're like, man, I love those singles. Rest of the album, I don't know. Like it's not as good as the 2 singles I loved. But then you listen to the album a bunch and you then eventually go, you know what, actually track 6 is my favorite song they've ever done, because I've grown to love that because I've had more time with it. So it's kind of cheating for the new singles when you've heard them a bunch. When you hear the whole album, you're like, oh, yes. And then this drop, you can't do that with the rest because it's your first time listening. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah, but I guess just I completely hear you, but I guess to go against that slightly is that like I didn't have that same experience with any of the non-singles on the Allt album. You know what I mean? So like it's obviously whether I just happen to be the one that's like connecting with the way in which they imagined the singles going, like, okay, these are the strongest singles or the ones that will have the most impact as singles. They've clearly nailed that because all the singles were fantastic. And then I won't say general consensus, like the album's great and there is a lot of great moments from the album, but like, I mean, the Orphan Breed following into Dissect Yourself to me felt like the Orphan Breed's like younger brother. It was like the same kind of vibe, but just like not as good. But maybe if they had to put Dissect Yourself out with a video that made the song feel a little bit cooler, and then the Orphan Breed on the album dropped, you'd be like, oh my god, this is a better version of Dissect Yourself. So you'd
hard
be like,
to know, because you might be like, actually the Orphan Breed is a bit more, it's just like more chaotic Dissect Yourself. I don't know that this is like that we cannot really unpick the path that we go when we're discovering music in a row.
True. But sometimes like they have like the one single that's like their main single, and then you listen to the album and nothing's been able to top it. The amount of albums I listened to, I'm like, oh man, like that was like the only really good song on it. But I guess when I go into albums too, I really love an album that feels like an experience where there's like transition tracks, like interludes and like different ideas, and like it really feels like an experience. And like so one album that really floored me, and I know that you guys checked it out, but I haven't heard your thoughts, is 156 Silence, because I heard the singles, thought they were good, checked out the album, like, whoa, there's weird interludes and different ideas in these songs, and it just feels trippy and also raw. Like I was really into that album.
Tori, have you heard this album? I'm judging for your face.
Go for it, guys.
Well, I've only heard, I haven't heard. I have a hard time, like, because I don't do album reviews just because of the type of person I am, basically. Because I do put everything into like my reactions. I'm very emotive with it, and I do film like quite a few in advance, just so that I have them, that we can send them off to labels wherever they need to go. But after that session, like even with streaming just for a couple of hours, it just really drains my battery, just because I do like it, I take in all the emotion, I take in everything. So when I'm done filming or when I'm done with with streaming, I'll go, like my living room is literally right behind here. I'll just go out there and I'll slump in the couch like this. And my husband Robin's like, "You're tired, aren't you?" I was like, "Yep." So I don't tend to do, like, I don't have a Patreon or anything like that. People have asked me about it, but I haven't done one yet. So I would like to start live streaming like album reactions and like maybe have a specific day just to go through an album, because there's plenty I want to listen to from start to finish with my community. I just haven't done it yet, and it's just that getting over that line of my own personal thing that's holding me back just to go ahead and do it.
They are exhausting, though. I think I enjoy albums, but the 156 Silence album, which I did enjoy, at the end of it, my head was fucked. Because trying to like actively listen and understand and look at all the nuance and the variations of rhythms, by the end of that, I was like, how the hell do I talk about this thing? I had nothing left.
I don't think people realize how not only emotionally taxing it is on you, it's also very physically draining too, to sit here and then to try and take everything in on a one-time listen. Like you're not re-listening to it all over. You're not sat here doing an actual review. You're here listening to it for the first time ever, and it's so, like you, Steve, it's hard to get to the end of something and then talk about it. That's why I do I know a lot of people don't like pauses, but that's why I do pause, because if I hear something in that moment and then I wait till the end of the song, if I don't make a note of it, it's gone. I won't remember it. So that's why I pause. People like, are you doing that for copyright? I'm like, I don't give a shit about
Some people
copyright.
love pauses. The world is in two camps. People love pauses. People don't love pauses. It doesn't matter. You'll find your own treat. With some channel.
I mean, I get the comments about, don't pause and talk at the end. I'm like, well, go watch the original if you don't want my input on it. So that's my thing. But I've done a couple of their songs, and I've really liked what I have heard. I just need to get to that point. And it's also hard with it being like, there's so many holidays happening right now. My mum is visiting me for a couple of weeks, then we're going to Chicago for Thanksgiving, and it's just, things are a bit crazy right now. And I decided to take a break from streaming just so I could spend more time with my mum, because I don't have family here. It's just my husband and I that live in this state. So, and I come from a big family, and I really miss like being together for things. So to have her here, like homesickness is always there. It's never not there, but sometimes it just gets like really, really elevated, and I have a hard time. And that's where I find joy within my channel for discovering new music. And then, like we were talking about band members earlier, like even when you just get a little comment from somebody, or if you see them at a live show and they're just really grateful for you, and it boosts you to continue on. So I know I kind of like went away from the discussion of the album.
That's fine. Listen, I can relate, because before this chat, the lads were sending like some albums we could talk about, and I was like, I haven't heard any of these. I haven't had fucking time. I have to like be very selective, because I've got kids and job and the rest. But I did get to the 156 album because I really loved Better Written Villain, which maybe was one of the ones you perhaps heard, Tori. That song I thought was near masterpiece territory. I think it was fucking incredible. In fact, I think I might have given it a masterpiece. I also really liked character development. I enjoyed the album, and I gave it my exact rating was it's bumping onto the ceiling of the solid bracket. Like, it wants to be delicious. It's so close, but I think my head was just absolutely fucked by the end of it, because it's really intense and just emotively anguish and despair and anger throughout. I'm just like, holy fuck. I couldn't take it all in. But I've been listening to it a bunch this week because I'm interviewing them on Friday. I have to ask them some questions. So I've much preferred it on repeat listens, as the nuance within it is coming through, and I'm noticing the other tracks with a little bit less like analytical throughout, and it's definitely growing and growing. They're so considered with their details. There's so much in there, and it's really like thematically well thought out. It's really good stuff. But on first listen, it was a fucking battering ram for my head. Drew?
Yeah, I'm much the same as where you were at. I listened to Better Written Villain, loved it, amazing. Yeah, like top tier stuff. And maybe I was just kind of going into, because that was, to be honest, the only reason I checked out the album was because one, I'd seen people were talking about it quite a lot, and then the only experience I'd really had with the band was through Better Written Villain. I was like, love this song. Everyone's talking about this now. It's just going to be more of this. And there were some good songs in there, good moments, but I just didn't connect with it. It's just as simple as that. I just didn't really love it. And yeah, I've seen a few comments. Drew only likes metalcore if it's Thal adjacent. I was just like, that's just simply not true. But okay, your comment is irrelevant because you're just completely wrong. But yeah, I've seen a few comments that have hurt my feelings, over my opinion.
That's all part of life on the internet.
Yeah, I started to post my full album reactions again because that was something I did a lot. And then I just started to like chop them up for Patreon, you know, put out a highlight video. Some people just don't want to watch the full thing, but I just found that the engagement, although maybe the views might not be as high on the like full length album reactions, over time I think they do kind of do well, because some people might be giving the video like 5 to 10 views because they're clicking back in multiple times. But I found that the engagement is always a little bit better just in terms of the comments and the feedback I get from the viewers, which I felt like with the album highlights were kind of just like, no matter what I left in the highlights, it was like, oh, he left out this. He left out on this moment. I'm like, it's a highlight video. But yeah, so I've started putting the full length albums out again, and honestly, I love, because people can like watch the whole thing and they can take their time with it, and then they can like pinpoint certain things that I might have asked that I wouldn't maybe include in the highlight video. So that's always really fun. But yeah, I've also with that comes the people who maybe watch 10 minutes of the video and they find my reaction to maybe one song that they love and they don't enjoy that, and then it's without like seeing the full context with my comments at the end and stuff. But yeah, there we are.
You didn't go full blown like I did with the Imminence the Black album. I struggle with that so no. Actually, it was only until the end I was like, I don't think I've really enjoyed this so much. But I've been surprised that the comments on that weren't too bad. I was expecting this to be absolutely mindful, because I know that most of the metal reactor scene loved the shit out of it. It was like, I'm going to be out here in the corner being like, boo.
I think it's that territory of how the band are themselves, and then how they've garnered their community, if you will. Of course, there's toxicity within every single community, but I feel like with Imminence, for example, they're just such sweet guys in general that when you meet them, you can tell that's what they love doing. That's their passion. That's their joy. That's everything they've wanted to do. So I feel like you kind of pull in what you put out, you know?
Hopefully,
For sure, yeah. The Imminence guys are really nice. Their fan base is a little toxic, because it's funny that you didn't get too much negative feedback. Because one of the criticisms was that they always sing or shout the song title in the chorus. It's the hook of the song. So once I noticed that pattern, I'm like, I actually called it out. Like, what was it? Like Heaven Shall Burn or something. I'm like, Heaven Shall Burn before I did the reaction. And then they did it in the song. And I'm like, there we go. And then so when I saw them live, they called me out on it. So
do you know who else does that I've just noticed?
Don't do it to me, but
I'm sorry, everyone, because you're now going to not unhear this, because one of my absolute favorite bands, Make Them Suffer. Like 3 of the songs of the new album are like, also later, Man of God, Doom Switch. It's like, that's the whole thing.
It's so true. Yeah.
So I'm confused by this, because I know I get where Burb is coming from, because I think the way Steve's described it makes more sense in my mind if it's like they're kind of saying it before a moment. But the way I understand it from what you're saying, Burb, is that it's just like the chorus of the song includes the title name, which to me is like a very common thing in music, you know?
It's the hook. So they're like, Nirvana always has the song title in like all their songs, but it's the hook. Like it could be Heaven Shall Burn or something, and they actually will go, Heaven Shall Burn. It's like the part. So that's where I'm getting at. So it's always like the hook of the song is like the title.
Right.
So
what's most likely is they write the hook and they write the lyrics, and like what they will call the song the most obvious reference point as they're rehearsing it. And they're like, oh, we need a song title. Well, it's obviously Heaven Shall Burn. Like we call it the Heaven Shall Burn song because of that moment. So it might not be they write the title and then they fix a hook through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like listen to the album. Or which one was it? Heaven is hiding.
Hiding or something?
Heaven is hiding. I think there's only one song where they don't do it. Like pretty much every song is. So and then the Black, they do it for majority of the songs too, and they've noticed it. They've talked about it and joked about it with me too. But I feel bad for pointing it out, but I can't help it. But yeah,
it's part of what we do.
The point is the fans were intense in my comment section. I'm just like, sorry. I'm like, you guys can go fight all you want in my comment section. You're helping my video in the algorithm by doing it, but
exactly.
I'm not. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I can see where you guys are coming from with the 156 Silence record because it's intense, and I think one reason why I do enjoy it too is just subjectively, it's a familiar sound to me. It's like that emo, like metalcore stuff that I listened to back in the early 2000s. Like I don't know if you guys listen to Misery Signals or those bands, but like it kind of gives me the same kind of vibe. And just hearing it in like modern and in a different kind of style, they're subjectively from nostalgia and also the way that they do it, I'm like, this is a really sick record.
Yeah,
that's cool. I think it's a grower as well. I think it might stand a bit of test of time. We'll see how that goes. Now, I mean, we're ending. I mean, we've been chatting here for a while, which is great, but obviously I'm conscious people have lives to get to. We're ending 2024 pretty soon, and I'm sure all of us are going to be thinking about things like who's the album of the year and the rest. We don't have to say what that is, but perhaps if each of us throw out who are your kind of top of mind, definitely in the conversation for album of the year for 2024. Tauri, do you have anything that kind of speaks to you this year? What you think about top of your head? What have been the great albums that have stood out?
I think honestly the one that I've listened to most, and it's not even metal at all, it's something completely different, and I know you've reacted to them, Steve, is Calandra. It's such a beautiful album from start to finish, and honestly my song of the year so far is The State of the World, just because
incredible song.
There's just something with Katrine and her vocal in that, and then you go ahead and watch the video and what they've done with the video and how that emotion connects with the song. And then I also got the chance to sit and talk with Katrine about the album, and just hearing her, how it came to her and what they did with it. And it's very folky metal. I mean, they have one song that's a bit more rockier, if you will, and they were like, fans are kind of like on the fence about it just because they don't usually do that type of music, but for me it pulled the album up a bit more, and it gives you, like, somebody who does like rock and metal, that little bit of an edge. And it's just because of the state of what the world is in today, and what she's talking about is basically hope, and she hopes people are still kind and still, that there's still kindness there. And it's just, I keep going back to it, and it's just an album from start to finish that I've really loved, and she just has that emotion that really pulls you in. And so for me right now, that's my easy answer, but we still have a couple of months left of the year, so you just don't know
there won't
what's
be that
coming
much,
out.
surely. Who's releasing an album in December be like, this might be
you never know. But another one, of course, is one of my personal favorite vocalists is Simone Simmons from Epica, and she just put out her first ever solo album, which she worked with somebody called Arjen Lucassen, and he's got a group called Arion, and they're very, very, very proggy. So you hear that side of things and get to hear different things from you. It's kind of like Epica meets Arjen and like put together with her own twist on it, and that's been a great one. Also, I'm probably talking about all these people that you've probably never really heard of.
I know Epica and Calandra.
Yeah, and Charlotte Vessels, she used to be in Delane. She just released a new album, which is great.
I've heard the name. I don't know her music.
Yeah, same.
It's really good. Like, she got all the ex-Delane band members come in and help her with it. And she's also got one of those very emotive voices that just pulls you into like the storyline of the album. And so that's kind of where I'm sitting right now. But again, because there's some things that, like, Nightwish released a new album and I haven't listened to it yet, just because I do want to listen to that with my community, because they're a big part of my channel. So like I said, it could change, but for right now, I think Calandria is like one of my top ones, and I would love to see them live. I think they would put on an amazing show.
I bet they do.
I think we all like them here too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Calandra's awesome. I hope I Am is not the only rocky song that you kind of mentioned, because I love that one. I loved it when I went a little rocky.
The one that I'm talking about, if you get a chance, they have a video for it, is Bardigan, it's called.
Oh, okay, nice.
But it's also done in their own native tongue as well.
Ooh, that's cool. Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Drew? What's top of mind in your
Sorry,
albums?
I haven't been ignoring you. I just panicked so hard because I forgot I didn't prepare any albums, and now
you don't have to have the right answers. No one's going to quiz you or no.
I do, Steve. Oh, but I do, because I'm going to have to hear about this for the next 6 weeks of people like, you forgot this album. So I'm like, right, okay. Okay, do you know, I'll just go to the list. This isn't like the album of the year by any stretch, but these are just the ones I managed to pick up. These are what's the honorable mentions? We haven't decided.
Yeah.
Which ones
is
are
in the
round
round
These are
robin.
just the honorable mentions for me right now. The ones that I've like gone through my playlists and seen, and I'm like, yeah, that will be in there somewhere. Where it will be, I don't know. But let's start. Oh Jesus! Okay, let's just go over it. Diamond Constructs, Angel Killer Zero. Vola, their most recent album. I just jumped like 6 months ago to like now. The most recent Vola album. Again, this isn't like I think these will be album of the year. They're just some of
in the conversation.
Albums.
Yeah.
Disembodied Tyrant, the EPs. I know they're not really the albums. Caligula's Horse had a great album earlier in the year. I don't think a lot of people have been really talking about that album as an album of the year contender, but it's fantastic. The Boundaries album, Alpha Wolf. I thought that was a great album. I think that released on the same day as Era's album, but I don't think Era makes that in there with their album compared to Alpha Wolf. Like Alpha Wolf will not be anywhere near my album of the year, but solid. Imminence, Bring Me, Darko, Night versus Bill Murray. Falling Reverse album is really good, I think. Obviously, the singles were so strong, but to me, it didn't really feel like an album experience. It felt just like a compilation of singles, but still a good album. Knock Loose, Allt, and Mirror. They're like what I can think of right now that I've seen. You can go Oralize as well. I didn't personally love that one, but that's, I guess, one you could chuck into the mix there. That's what I have anyway. Where any of those lands, I've no clue. No idea.
Good list. Some good shit in there.
Breaking Benjamin drop an album soon. They could be, but we can get on to that. But anyway, you guys go.
I mean, a lot of those are in my list, but also Wind Waker, their hyper violence album, I fucking adored. Good job mentioning Bring Me the Horizon. I think people might have forgotten that came out because it took so long to actually come out, but that was pretty interesting. Allt from the New World is very high up there for me, as is, of course, Bill Murray, because I fucking adore Bill Murray music. And I mean, it's not out yet, but Make Them Suffer's album is definitely up there. I have heard it. It is up there.
Oh, shit.
Who else? Like Moth to Flames. I liked their album. That's pretty decent. I've got Alpha Wolf and Era kind of next door neighbors on my list. They were decent. Not gonna. Cane Hill had a fucking great album. I really enjoyed that. I think it's not going to be an album of the year, but it's definitely good for me. Very good. I fucking love that band. Not dissimilar from the Allt thing. Like, it's a pocket of sound that if you love it, you're going to love listening to a few songs of it. Is my take on that one. But
yeah, I actually tried to check that album out this morning, but there was a fucker with a leaf blower outside my window for about 35 minutes. So I was just like, well, this isn't happening anytime soon, is it? So I'll check that out tomorrow or something.
Cool. Yeah, those are my conversations. I'm basically trying to see if there's anything that can make Bill Murray not be my album of the year. And like it was much easier until Allt and Make Them Suffer came along for me personally, and now it's hard.
Yeah.
Metal Burp.
I'm just looking at my list here. Like initially, I was going to say, or like be a Debbie Downer and say like this year is not really that strong. You know, I felt like it has been a little bit of a slow year in metal releases, especially in comparison to 2023 for me. But when Drew was naming off like Knock Loose and like, Bring Me the Rise, I'm like, okay, no, there was some heavy hitters. I think the second half of 2024 is where things really slowed down for me. But we still have Make Them Suffer coming out. We still have Linkin Park coming out, which I'm very excited for personally. But like, I don't want to give away my album of the year because like, I keep that very secretive for my end of the year list videos. But, there's one album that, I want to talk about these ones first. Darkest Hour, very overlooked, really, really solid OG metalcore band. Enterprise Earth also dropped a really good record too. Grey Haven's EP was awesome. Relica also dropped something good too. Idola, like there's some solid releases, but one album that really floored me, and it's not metal, is Childish Gambino. Actually, like that was
yes.
He put out a record that it's kind of like one of the more like albums that I go back to a little bit more, maybe because I listened to so much metal music, I need those palate cleansers. But Childish Gambino has like this one song called No Excuses, and it's like a 7-minute progressive R&B funk song, and it's so good. It's so good. It's like one of my favorite songs of the year, but I can't put that on my list. So I'll just say, like, yeah, like it's hard to say. Like, you know, I'm going to keep it metal oriented.
Might get a bunch of shares on the video. People are like, "Did you fucking see what?"
Yeah, I know. Like, if I give it like my number one, just
metalhead poser.
But no, it's really good. No Excuses. I definitely recommend. And Lithium is a great song too. So that's definitely one of my favorite records of the year, and it's not metal.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't describe Bill Murray as metal, but then my channel isn't a pure metal channel. Metal is most of it, but it's all kinds of rock bits and pieces. So that's all right. But yeah, so we'll see. You'll have to wait and see our eventual album of the year videos when they come out, no doubt. Middle of December. So Spotify Wrap's gonna be pretty soon, right? Because it's fucking November now, and they come out real early. Mine's gonna be hilarious. It's just gonna be Bill Murray. That's all it's gonna be, including the deep cuts.
They sent me something today about like updating. I got like a prompt on my phone from Spotify to say like update your app to like make sure that it updates. But are they not changing it here? Where I think I hear this every year, where it's normally like January to October instead of January to December. Like the actual data that they collect isn't the full year.
Yes.
You know? So every year I hear that like, oh no, this year is actually going to be January to December. It's going to be the entire year. But I guess if it's coming out soon, that's probably...
I don't think they can do that, because if they do that, certainly my playlist every year will have a ton of Mariah Carey in it from Christmas. Like, that's not really... It's cheap.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what happened with mine last year with Dayseeker. It's just Christmas, you know, just... But, yeah.
And then there's Song of the Year, but we don't have time for that, folks. We've had a lovely chat here, but yeah, there's been some amazing...
That's a whole stream. That's a whole different stream. That's a whole different podcast talking about just which song.
All right. Next episode, we'll chat about Songs of the Year, perhaps, with another guest we have lined up, but we'll tease that a bit more. Listen, Tauri, thank you very, very much indeed for your time and your insights and your experiences today. It's been a joy to have you here. Thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you, Tauri.
Thank you very much, Tauri. Pleasure.
Thank you
Pleasure
for having me. It's been really nice. Finally getting to somewhat sit face to face to talk with you all. And I follow all of your channels, and you're honestly big inspirations of mine. So, you know, it's nice to be connected this way, because I feel like some reactors tend to... they don't really connect with other reactors, and I'm like, why not? You know, we have this really nice community, and it's, you know, and especially when people are sharing other things like help with settings or help with whatever, help with labels. Some people are like, I'm not giving that away, but with people I have interacted with, it's been really nice. So thank you for inviting me on, and we're finally here doing it.
I know. Thought it would never happen. No, it's great. We have so many like shared experiences, obviously, because we're all doing the same stuff. And otherwise, you just have a silo in your own little cave at home doing a thing. It's much better to connect in this way. So totally agree and relate. Well, thank you again. And listen, I don't know when the next episode... Actually, well, we have another episode planned to be recorded in a couple of weeks. We've been, you know, pretty rare between the last episode and this one. So in a couple of weeks, there should be another one. If you haven't already subscribed, do make sure you do so. And we'll put a link in the description, of course, to Tauri's excellent YouTube channel. Go have a subscribe over there and watch your stuff too. Thanks, lads and lass. See you all hopefully in another episode very soon.
Peace.